Hi, welcome everyone to this Young Diamantaires event. My name is Chris, and I would like to introduce the amazing Miss Eira Thomas. She is not just the co-founder and CEO of Lucara Diamonds. She was also named a Young Global Leader by the World Economic Forum and top 100 of Canada's most powerful women. And I think probably the most amazing thing, the only female CEO of a diamond mining company, if we got that right. Eira, it was great meeting you in Las Vegas. I'm so happy that you're on here again. Thank you so much for being with us here today.
Delighted to be here, Chris. Thank you very much for having me.
And before we jump into the questions, I also like to introduce the other Young Diamantaires here that are on the call with me. I have one-time LOD from Paris, France. She is also the executive director of the World Diamond Council. I have Rachel here from Dubai. She is the owner of Sahar Diamonds. I have Kevin here, also a fellow Canadian from Vantage Gem Diamonds. And I have Rami Baron, the founder of the Young Diamantaires and the president of the Diamond Dealers Club of Australia. Thank you everyone for helping me out today. I really appreciate this as well. Before we jump in, we'll give everyone 1 to 2 minutes to get on real fast. And Eira, if I remember correctly, Lucara Diamonds was founded back in 2007.
Yes, it's been a while now. We really kind of got it ramped up in about 2009, 2010. Our first asset actually was acquired in Lesotho. And then shortly after that, we acquired what has since become developed as the Karowe Diamond Mine in Botswana back in 2009, 2010.
Okay, so all the mining operation is in Botswana.
Right now, our flagship asset is the Karowe Diamond Mine, and it is situated in north central Botswana.
Okay, how did you come up with the name Lucara Diamonds? Where does Lucara come from?
You know, it's kind of a funny story because we'd originally acquired a shell company that had a traditional Scottish name that we just didn't think was going to resonate as a diamond company, but we struggled to come up with a unique name, and we were right down to the deadline for our public listing where we had to come up with the name. And my partners were Lucas Lundeen and Catherine McLeod Seltzer. They're both serially successful entrepreneurs in the mining industry. And we literally came down to like the last hour, and we were struggling to come up with the name. And I put all 3 of our names together. So it's Lucas, Catherine, and Eira to make Lucara.
All right, it's not like a word from Botswana. It's actually
no.
Wow.
Surprisingly, it kind of seems that way. A lot of people think there's something more, exciting, but really it was a last-minute attempt to come up with a name that we could all agree on.
Cool. Well, it sounds pretty cool. So I really like it. So I would like to pass on to Rachel because she's going to have the first set of questions for us. Rachel, Great. Please go ahead.
Great. Thank you so much, Chris. And Eira, it's very, very nice to have you here. And thank you so much for giving us this time, precious time, and sharing your experience. And if we're talking about experience, let me start with asking you, I always look at a path, not just on a result. And I would like to ask you about your path and who are your mentors on the way?
Sure. Thank you so much, Rachel. And I love getting asked that question, actually, because it's like most people, the path was not a straightforward one. I started as a child, working with my father in the Northwest Territories. My father was a mining engineer, and he soon discovered a passion for exploration. So in my youth, I spent a lot of time, in bush camps and tent camps, running around exploring for different minerals and metals mostly. And when it came to university, I actually thought I wanted to be a doctor. So I signed up in biology and pre-medicine, and soon discovered that I had no passion for taxonomy and all the things associated with, becoming a biologist or a doctor. And I defaulted back to those days of my youth where I realized that I absolutely loved treasure hunting. And that's what it was to me as a child. It was all about finding that buried treasure. And that led me down the path towards geology. And I ended up getting my degree in geology and started my career actually in gold exploration, and was sort of considering kind of postgraduate work in gold when Chuck Fipke and Stu Blusson, two famous Canadians, made this incredible discovery in the center of northern Canada. This was November of 1991. It was the first time diamonds had really been discovered in concentration in Canada. And it set off this, whole new world that led to the largest staking rush in world history. And eventually I found myself swept up in that. I came back from studies that I was pursuing abroad. My father was still very much involved in the exploration game. And, he had a little company working up in the north, and I deferred on my studies and came home to be part of this fantastic new wave of exploration. So for me, that's where it began, and was really exciting to be part of those first efforts exploring for diamonds in northern Canada.
Thank you so much for sharing. I must admit, it's kind of a surprise for me, at least. I don't know about the other guys, but I never expected this answer. And I think it's amazing that it came from your father.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that he was an important mentor to me. Certainly he was my earliest mentor, the one that really kind of lit the fire around mineral exploration. Later, as I went on in my career, it evolved from really the excitement of trying to find a deposit to, okay, we found a deposit. Now, how do we actually get it built and developed? And what does this mean ultimately for the company, for our communities, for the country? And so eventually, in my career, other mentors became important as I learned other aspects of the business and realized how important, a new industry like diamonds in Canada could actually be to the local communities that we were working in. So, Catherine McLeod-Seltzer, my business partner and co-founder at Lucara, became a very important mentor for me. She was one of the first female kind of mining executives. She was a male-dominated world. She's about a decade older than me. And she really was groundbreaking. She found a big deposit in South America that eventually got bought out by Barrick. And she went on to do amazing things, is now the chairman of Kinross Gold. So Catherine certainly was an important mentor for me. And all along the way, I think I've had lots of interesting people. And that includes, of course, the diamond community. When we first got into diamonds and made those early discoveries in Canada, I was a geologist. I knew, a little bit about exploration, but I knew nothing about the diamond industry. And I'll never forget my first trip to Antwerp, where, I met this whole new community and learned about the business of actually valuing diamonds and ultimately selling diamonds. And there was a number of important people in that community, including my dear friend Shlomo Tidar, who's still a very good friend today, who first took me in to look at my 50 carats of diamonds I brought from the NWT to give me an opinion on whether or not we had something that could be potentially interesting from an economic point of view.
That brings me exactly for the next question, which in my experience of 20 years in polished diamonds, the rough diamonds was always like a magical, mysterious world for me. And I think for most of the people who trade in diamonds, it's like we don't have a real access to work in this field. And with your experience, I would love to hear how young diamanteers, especially women, can go into the field of rough diamonds.
Well, I think that's a very, very good question. And I think it is one of the challenges to, the perception around our industry, quite frankly, because you've kind of got the rough diamonds on the one side, you've got manufacturers in the middle, and then you've got the polished on the other end of the spectrum. And these businesses have kind of always operated pretty independently. And I think consumers today want to have a clear sight line as to, the origins of that polished, where did it come from? How was it, dug up and recovered. At the end of the day, when they purchase that polished diamond, are they supporting responsible companies that are actually benefiting the local communities in which they operate? So I think that that whole conversation has really come to the forefront in the last few years, particularly. And I think one of the reasons that I was so keen to get involved with Clara, which is our new technology business that we purchased a few years ago, is it really works to build a bridge between those two worlds and really kind of help understand how that rough turns into polished, and more importantly, create a common language between the two of them. So, our efforts in Clara are really to provide transparency. So as a buyer of rough, where your diamonds are coming from, but more importantly, we are kind of eliminating the language of rough. When you buy a diamond on Clara, you're really ordering polished. And then Clara uses technology to find an optimal rough diamond to turn into the polished order that you've requested. So it's really about trying to make it clear and to kind of create a single language around diamonds, which is really the parameters of polished. I mean, Clara is a very new platform. We've just started it up. It's not something that's in widespread use yet. But I think, what we're trying to do is take a very heterogeneous product. No two diamonds are alike coming out of the ground. They're all, ultimately sold for individual price points. And the ambition behind Clara is to really make that whole process and the transformation of rough to polished much clearer and more transparent.
Thank you so much. I think Elodie has some questions regarding Clara. So
okay.
Let's move forward to Elodie.
Fantastic. Elodie, please go ahead. Clara was a good keyword here, so jump right in.
We need to hear you.
Apologies. Thank you very much, Eira, for being with us today. Indeed, you already touched upon Clara. And it's very interesting what you said, Rachel, because I was a midstream girl also for 20 years, between high-end jewelry brands and a diamond trader in Paris. And I've always, watched carefully the rough diamond sales. So my question actually is around Clara. I wanted to understand, your technological platform for rough diamond sale. How does it differentiate from the existing models that we know, the size, the long-term contract?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I think, just to take a step back, I think it's important to understand, yes, how do we sell typically, traditionally? And, whether you're a smaller company like Lucara or you're a big producer like De Beers or Alrosa, the challenge as producers is that, we produce this very heterogeneous product, and we want to be able to sell it regularly for repeatable revenues. So how do you deal with that, since every diamond is unique? And I think as producers, we've traditionally solved that problem by basically producing our diamonds over a period of time and then putting them into broad buckets or classifications based on color, size, quality. And then whether you're selling them through a tender process or a site, we're essentially creating buckets of diamonds, which we then invite our customers to purchase. So they don't get a choice of really what they purchase. They have to purchase the whole bucket. And the big revelation for me as a producer, not really understanding your segment of the business, was that when you get that bucket back to your polishing factory, invariably there's a bunch of diamonds in there that don't work for your needs and your distribution channels. So you end up having to retrade those diamonds, or they get stuck in inventory, all of which is a real cost. And so, we understand traditionally that, producers want to keep moving these goods. So all of those goods get sold in that format. But what we realized with Clara is that we have technology today to actually completely transform that. We don't need to sell in buckets. We can actually sell diamonds individually based
Oh.
on actual demand coming from the midstream, from individual polishing factories for very specific needs for the marketplaces that they serve and they want to sell into. So Clara eliminates the whole concept of buckets. You know, now we're basically using scanning and planning technology. And by the way, we have a 10-year exclusive contract with Serene Technologies out of Israel. So we use their scanning and planning technology. But, you know, instead of having that only in the factory, we've moved it right up to the mine site. So as we produce a diamond at Karowe, that diamond then gets scanned. That creates a 3D, you know, tomographic image. It tags the diamond with an immutable record of where it came from. So that's the provenance piece. That diamond then gets uploaded for sale on our secure web-based marketplace. And then at the same time, our manufacturers or our integrated jewelry houses, as the case may be, will actually upload orders on Clara, not for rough, but for actual polished. You're going to tell us exactly what it is that you want to make. And by the way, all this information is kept in a black box, so no other manufacturer can see what you are actually ordering. You give us the exact specifications, the color, the quality, the size, the girdle width, the facet angles. It's basically a blueprint of the exact polish that you want and the price you're willing to pay. That's a really key point. So we're not asking you to bid. This is not an auction. You tell us what you're prepared to pay for those diamonds. The real secret sauce in Clara is simply a matching algorithm. For each and every order you place and polished, we look for the perfect optimal rough diamond to polish into that specific order. And that is really, you know, the transformation. It's a complete disruption on the way that we sell diamonds today. And what's really the most important piece of this is that in creating this match, we're actually unlocking a lot of value. Not only are we selling our diamonds for more as producers, you are buying only what you want. You're not having to trade excess goods. You're not having to hold inventory. And so that means you can put your best foot forward in terms of pricing, because now you're buying only the stones that you need. And that creates, you know, a lot of value for everyone. So during the COVID crisis, where people obviously were challenged to get on a plane and go buy diamonds traditionally, we saw interest in the platform ramp up considerably. We started pre-COVID with 20 or so customers. We're now sitting at 88 customers, and we have an active wait list. So the next big thing for Clara is really to open up the platform to additional supplies of rough. So we're inviting other producers now to sell on Clara. We're extremely excited about where this can go. Our view is that this is really the future of diamond sales. And really, we've been able to demonstrate that through COVID, that this technology works. All of our buyers have been extremely pleased, and you know, we haven't lost any buyers basically since day one on Clara. So that was a bit of a long-winded answer, but hopefully that explains where we were and where we think we're going.
Thank you very much. No, actually, it's a perfect answer for two reasons, because you clearly explained that you're moving back from that push, that old push industry to a pull one. And
yes.
And you touched upon my second question, which was about, you know, your partnership with Serene and whether Clara was designed initially as a traceability solution, and if so, would you invite other, you know, suppliers to join it? So you answered my question. So thank you so much. I mean, it's a wonderful answer. That's all I was expecting. Thank you.
Well, thank you. No, you're exactly right. The, you know, push to pull is so fundamental. There is very few businesses on the planet that haven't made that transformation, and diamonds, for lots of good reasons, it's such a traditional business, has taken longer. But when I showed Clara technology to my technology friends, they're amazed that we haven't actually done this before. So it's long overdue, I think.
Thank you. And if I may, I have one last question regarding, you know, your strategic partnership with HB. And I'm curious, because I come from, you know, Paris, so high-end jewelry, Place Vendôme. I mean, is this partnership, you know, designed to cater, you know, one-of-a-kind pieces to these, you know, luxury brands?
Yes, well, thank you for that question too, because our partnership with HB is also something that's very new, and this came out of the COVID crisis to a certain extent. You know, rough diamond prices were heavily discounted during the pandemic. And so we made a deliberate decision not to sell rough into that very weak environment. Instead, we worked out an arrangement with HB out of Antwerp where we would take all of our plus 10.8 carat diamonds now, so this is our larger diamonds, and put them into a manufacturing partnership. But like Clara, this is not a traditional manufacturing partnership. What we wanted to do for the very first time is create true alignment between the producer and the manufacturer. So instead of selling HB rough, we actually agreed that we would work together to manufacture these diamonds and that they would earn their margin on the basis of the polished outcome, less a standard fee and a commission. So for the first time ever, we're both pulling on the same rope. HB is motivated to maximize the value of each and every diamond that they produce. And we've taken the risk out of the element of purchasing rough diamonds for HB. They now know that they are going to get a standardized fee, and they are going to work with the brands to actually develop demand for those products. So again, instead of polishing a bunch of product that we don't really know where it's going to go, the goal is to be working more closely with companies like Louis Vuitton and now Tiffany and other big brands to try and actually feed that growing demand and actually work with the brands actually to increase interest in the diamond space. And I think one of the exciting things to see in our industry is when you see brands like LV, purchasing Tiffany, they are doing so because they believe that diamonds and diamond jewelry has generally underperformed other luxury products. So they see a huge opportunity in diamonds and diamond jewelry going forward. They can see that, global supply of natural diamonds is also on the decline. So, we're starting to set up for, I think, a much stronger kind of pricing outlook. But most importantly, it's about building up new demand for our product. And the way to do that is by working more closely with the brands. And this is something that maybe seems obvious, but, as we started out this conversation, what's been fascinating for me to kind of see, how independently these businesses along the supply chain have really functioned for many, many years. And I think everyone is finally realizing that there is a definite benefit to working together along the value chain. And certainly HB saw that as a big opportunity to work closely with those big brands to be able to feed demand. And the ultimate goal is to work with customers, of course, to design bespoke pieces of jewelry or jewelry collections. And that is absolutely where we think this will go at the end of the day.
Thank you so much. Congratulations. I can't wait to hear more from it.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Elodie, for the great questions. I would like to pass over to Rami. Rami, please go ahead.
Sure. Hi, Eira. And there's a couple of things I'd like to say. First of all, your participation today is really important. Having founded the Young Diamantaires, the essence was really to look to see how we can help the next generation hear what's relevant and learn from experience. So I have two questions, a bit interrelated, but based on the last thing you said, I'm going to throw in one more. So my question here, though, is from a management point of view. So when you're running your business, are you a person who manages by consensus, or do you have a different approach? And then sort of backing onto that, what influenced your management style? Because that's such an individual thing, and running a large corporation as you are, that's something that I know Young Diamantaires always want to look at. You talk about the secret sauce. What's the secret sauce in management style? So I think I'll put that to you.
Yeah, those are both great questions. And I really do think that leadership is so important today as you think about your business and where it's going to go. And I think I'm really fortunate that I have had some good mentors that I've been able to learn from over the years. And I've also had the benefit of being involved, on the mining side with some very large companies, with large organizations. So it's been, that's been a big learning experience for me as well. I think I really do strive for consensus. I think if you have been successful in building a team that works collaboratively and respects each other's contributions, that you should be able to get to the point of consensus. That doesn't always happen. And in those cases, yes, I'm prepared to step in and take that decision as a CEO. But I think what's really important in the conversation is that everyone has a voice and that they have a chance to express themselves, particularly with important decisions, and present their point of view, and that they feel comfortable doing so. And, Lucara is a bit unusual in that we have attracted, a high proportion of female leaders. And, I didn't set out to create a management team that was 85% female, but that's what I've ended up with, and which I'm very proud of. But I think the key thing there is that, we've created and fostered an environment where women feel really comfortable, where they feel like they can actually make a contribution, and that their voices are being heard. So a lot of people ask me, you set out to do this, but no, we've identified strong candidates who are willing to come work with us because they liked the environment that we were really working to develop. So, we have very strong male leaders in our organization too. And the key thing I think is really around the youth. And one of the reasons I'm so thrilled to be participating today with the Young Diamantaires is because it really is important as a leader to think about succession and the next generation and where we're going as an industry. We have so many families in this business that have, third and fourth generations that have been around a long time. But there's also, a new generation that's sort of coming into the business that don't have necessarily that familial association, that are excited, I think, about what we're doing, especially in respect of technology. So one of the things that I spend a lot of time on is just looking at my high potential people and where they're going in their careers, and making sure that we're working to develop them, and getting them on a path where they can see a future and are interested in where the company is going. So I think consensus is really important. You don't always get there, but I hope that everyone in my organization feels that they've got a strong voice and that those voices are heard and considered. And I get pretty candid feedback from my own team, so I hear from them if they don't agree or they don't think that we've made the right decision at any particular point. But by and large, I think we achieve good consensus, and we own our decisions together, which I think is also important.
Yeah, that's the answer you hope to hear. So actually hearing it puts a lot of weight to it. So I'm gonna sneak in one more question because it relates to what you were answering Elodie's questions. And as I was sitting there, I couldn't help thinking, so you've got this fantastic vertical integration with Clara, and you talked about ultimately the consumer. And so I think the obvious question, which I'm sure you're asked multiple times, but we haven't heard it, is ultimately, Lucara going to be the brand on the finger? Do you see yourself creating the consumer, becoming the ultimate retailer, admittedly with partnerships, but is that brand going to come all the way down to I'm wearing a Lucara diamond, as in?
Yeah, that's a great question. Never say never. Or I think that would be an exciting development at some point. But I think we understand what we do well. I mean, we understand how to mine diamonds, how to produce diamonds in a responsible way. We understand a little more now about manufacturing, but again, the key thing there is partnerships. So we are working with experts in the field and creating alignment, and then ultimately, working it is in a small way today with the brands. And these brands, we certainly appreciate what it takes to develop a brand and to build a brand, and the cost and expertise. It's not something we have. So we want to work closely with them to make sure that we're delivering a product and that we're increasing demand for our own product. At this stage, I would say that is not our big focus area. We want to continue to build those relationships and make sure that we have access. But we are certainly hopeful, when it comes to the work that we're doing at Lucara, that our diamonds continue to be in strong demand, because consumers feel, one, they know that their diamonds are coming from our mine, and they like what we're doing at the mine site to really meet our ambitions around ESG. But I think longer term for us, when it comes to Clara, which is obviously a very different business, we've got the mining business and we've got this kind of marketplace. We have to see how, we're a publicly traded company, so we're going to have to see how our shareholders ultimately value these two businesses. And it is possible at some point in the future that we end up spinning Clara out. Our goal has been to commercialize it and demonstrate that it works. Longer term, I think in order to entice other producers to sell through Clara, it probably makes sense to create an independent vehicle that is not owned by a mining company. And then I think for Lucara, we're pretty ambitious. Sorry, my dogs have just showed up here. We're pretty ambitious when it comes to growing our mining business. We think that there is a need in the mining industry for an investable mid-tier diamond company, which doesn't exist right now. You've got the smaller companies, and then you've got the big companies. And so we think consolidation is something that would be beneficial, and we're very hopeful that is something that we can work towards in the coming years. We've been very, very busy working on an expansion of the Karowe diamond mine. Excited to report just this week that we closed a financing, which will allow us to extend our mine life out from 2024 to 2040. So, Karowe is not going anywhere. It's a really unusual mine. We produce a lot of the world's biggest and most valuable gems. And we're really excited now that we've got a path to another 15 years of mine life. That having been achieved now, we're well on the path towards that. We are going to turn our minds to looking for other assets that we can bring into the portfolio. We love Botswana. We'd love to have another mine in Botswana. So we'll continue to work that angle as well. So I haven't totally answered your question. I love the idea of a Lucara, brand at some point, but I think at this stage, we know what we're good at. We're focusing on that, and we're really more about collaboration and partnerships, working with good companies like Serene, companies like HB, and the larger brands. We also continue to do a large portion of our lower value goods through tenders. We use Bonus out of Antwerp, who provide an excellent service. So I think for us, it's about staying nimble and keeping our eyes open and being open-minded. So
I think the one thing you said there, and I'll stop my contribution here, but the one thing you said there that is so relevant for young diamantaires to listen to is that you don't actually have to monopolize everything. You don't have to control everything. You've said the one thing that I hear time and time again, and we always like to talk about as a group, and that is everyone has a specialty, and to build a brand is incredibly hard, time consuming, financially draining in most cases. And we saw what happened with De Beers in itself when it's gone down the path of the De Beers stores and things like that. So it's not always the answer, but having these fantastic partnerships and recognizing the strengths of everyone, and everyone can eat. The truth of the matter is you don't, and that's what I love so much about what you were saying about the HB story, that everyone, you can find a relationship that's so unlike the traditional Diamantaires story, where you can sit down and say, you know what, you guys do what you do well, you add value, and you'll get value where you're working in the cutting process, we're not going to drain you of your cash. We're not going to force you to pull out billions or multi-millions of dollars up front, because it doesn't work. But the symbiotic relationship is such a cool thing. So you're definitely showing us in the industry how to do it, and how everyone can sit at the table. So huge kudos to you, and we all take our hat off to you. And it's such a powerful lesson for all the young diamantiers and other industries to hear. Let's get rid of that old statement: greed is good. Greed is not good. So on that one, I'll pass you. I'll pass you on to Kevin, because he's fighting at the bit. He's got lots of great questions too. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you, Rami.
Thank you, Rami. And Kevin, go ahead.
Yes. Hi, Eira. It's, of course, a pleasure to finally meet you, a fellow Canadian. And of course, you help put Canada on the map when it comes to the diamond industry. So thank you for the Diavik mind. I guess Rami kind of touched on it, the first question I was going to ask, but maybe in a bit of a different angle is with the Canadian background. Is there an idea of actually a story behind Botswana and diamonds from Botswana, and supporting that story, and maybe thinking more about the origin versus the provenance of stones? If you could speak to that a little bit.
Sure. And yeah, I guess to go back and talk a little bit about the Canadian experience and how that kind of really shaped my outlook. I think what we learned, because of course this was so new to us Canadians, 25 years ago, we didn't have a diamond industry in Canada. So it was an amazing kind of journey. And one of the things that we really had to learn and understand was how we could actually develop this industry to the benefit of a whole bunch of local stakeholders. And I think some of those learnings have been really relevant to the approach that we've taken in Botswana. Because of course, Botswana is a completely different story. This is a country that was built on diamonds, that has been mining diamonds successfully for close to 60 years. And so this is something that they live and breathe and understand very well. And of course, you've got the biggest players there. De Beers, obviously. And for little Lucara, it was about trying to fit into this age-old business and think about how we could make a positive contribution. And so I think one of the biggest learnings out of the Canadian experience is that sometimes it's best not to be burdened with a lot of knowledge and experience, quite frankly, because it may prevent you from taking bold decisions, that sometimes maybe turn out to be silly decisions. But we didn't know enough to be able to, we didn't know enough to make a decision not to try something. We were pretty out of the box in our thinking with respect to exploration. Diavik is a great example. It ended up being a very small pipe, and by all accounts, De Beers wouldn't have drilled that because the likelihood of it being economic was extremely low. And they're exactly right. It was extremely low. But what they hadn't banked on is that it was going to be one of the highest grade diamond ore bodies in the world. And so it was extremely economic, even though it was a tiny little ore body. So that was an amazing learning. And I think coming to Botswana for us, we tried to kind of take that same open-minded attitude towards this legacy region. We were able to buy this asset that had been explored by De Beers back in the 70s. At the end of the day, they'd made a determination that they didn't think it was going to be economic. And quite frankly, it probably wasn't a De Beers size target. And we were able to take our learnings from Canada and our understanding of the business. And we looked at this and said, yes, it is a small deposit. But by the way, the technology in the 70s was not that great. We think there's a chance that quite a few of these diamonds have been broken. And this is probably a starter size project that turned out to be a bonanza, because what we didn't even anticipate, we knew there was broken diamonds there, but we didn't anticipate that those broken diamonds came from 1,000 carat stones. And, this mine has now turned out to be the only mine in recorded history that's recovered 3+ 1,000 carat diamonds. So we got very lucky with that, but part of it is just around not having a prescribed view on what you're looking for and what is actually going to work. So I think that was a big thing for us coming into Botswana. And then I think the other piece for us really, and we talk about provenance versus origin, but thinking about what we do in Botswana to really maximize the value of our project. We don't have the ability to write a big check like De Beers. They've done some incredible things. They've built hospitals. They've built an amazing rhino preserve in Botswana. We are a little producer. So what is it that we do? And our approach is quite different. We go and we sit down with our 19 communities of interest, and we listen to, their priorities, and we try and work really closely within those communities of interest to identify, sustainable projects that are meaningful to them. So they may not be the biggest projects, but they are projects that they really care about. And that, I think, is how we've differentiated ourselves. And when you think about, what a diamond from Lucara means in the Karowe mine, it's really about being very connected within our communities. For example, one of the priorities that was identified by a little community called Mokabilo was malnutrition. Surprisingly, Botswana, which is considered the Switzerland of Africa, still struggles in certain areas with malnutrition. And we identified a project where they wanted to address this issue. So we built a community farm, which is owned and operated by that community and employs only members from that community. And not only did we address malnutrition, it's been so successful that this community is now selling excess produce into the local supermarket chain. So it's become a long-term sustainable business. That wasn't a big capital item, but it's been profound in terms of how it's changed the outlook for one little community and where they can go. So those are the types of things that we're looking at. And when you source a diamond from Karowe, I really hope that our consumers, are extremely proud of all the things that we're trying to do to really move the dial and make a difference in our communities.
That's wonderful to hear. I mean, that kind of brings fire to, I guess, what we do, what I do, what we do in this industry, and hearing, I mean, whether you're big or small, and all those little things add up, and giving back and helping with the malnutrition issues and so on and so forth. And I guess you kind of pretty much answered my other question about, what does Lucara do, and the diamonds that, the good that diamonds really do good. And I hope, all the YDs will hear what you just said, and be very proud of what we do in our industry, and that will, keep us fired up to keep moving forward in that direction. Another question that I also had was, talking to the Young Diamantaires, here today, how do you see our industry moving forward with the next generation? And kind of what advice could you give to the YDs at the moment?
I think I'm super excited about where our industry is going. I think that we've lived through a lot of boom and bust volatility, and a lot of that, I think, is owing to the fact that we haven't been working very closely, together along the supply chain. I really think that is going to continue to evolve, and that's going to be an important value driver, I think, for all the businesses in the value chain. But I think the thing that I'm most excited about, and I really look to the Young Diamantaires to do, is that, we have to do a better job of explaining the benefits of our industry and how this all fits together. And we've got to create more transparency. And I think that young generation who's so, you're also plugged in on how to message through social media and to counteract some of the negative rhetoric. I think it's really critical that we engage with that younger generation and the technology to make sure that they're getting the right information. And I think there's a great story to tell. So it's something that I think for those of us that are a few generations older, we struggle with, because we sort of assume that eventually, these facts will just get out there somehow. But at the end of the day, we know enough to know that that isn't the case. And we need to rely on the younger generations to do that. But more importantly, to think about your businesses differently. Like I think we can really celebrate the traditional aspects of our business, and how it's evolved, and the way that demand for natural diamonds has evolved over more than 100 years. We can build on that, and at the same time modernize, how this business operates, creating transparency, back to, the comment about push versus pull. And, and I think that, as I said, I'm super excited about that. And I think it falls on the shoulders of the Young Diamantaires. And I'm very confident that they're going to be successful and kind of leading that next phase in the business transformation.
That's wonderful to hear. I mean, seems like the theme is, working together, and then of course thinking outside the box a bit, and kind of hence why Rami had founded this YD group. It really allows us to think outside the box and throw ideas out there and not be constrained by, I guess, the history that our industry does have. So no, that's great to hear that coming from you as well. And just to throw this out here, I know we're coming closer to the end. We always like to have a little bit of fun. I know you're very busy running a very large company, diamond mine company, and in the tech with Clara. Is there something outside of that is one of your favorite hobbies?
Oh, yeah, goodness. Yeah, I have to say it kind of goes back to my roots as an explorer. I love to be in the outdoors. So I think the only sort of silver lining for me through COVID is just being stuck in beautiful British Columbia in Canada, and having the opportunity to kind of be out in the woods every single day, running my Arctic dogs from Yellowknife, who require exercise every single day. So that's been really one lovely aspect of having a reduced travel schedule. And but
Great.
I'm also
That's awesome.
excited to get back on a plane and get back to kind of the global tour as well. Lots
Absolutely.
to do.
Very cool.
Absolutely. I'll hand that back over to Chris.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we have time for one more question. Rachel, did you have something to add, or otherwise? I maybe have one last question. You said you're an explorer. We heard the story about Diavik. We heard how you got into Botswana. But how do you found a diamond mine? Do you wake up one morning and say, "Hey, we're going to buy a piece of land in Botswana, and we're going to make a diamond mining company out of it"? Or how do you have such an amazing journey to say, in a short answer, of course, because we don't have that much time anymore, but we're
it's probably not a short answer, but it does start with the science. I have to say, I was really fortunate to start my career at a young age, working with some amazing geologists, largely from Southern Africa, who'd had a whole lifetime of experience exploring for diamonds there. And so, we learned a lot through the early days of Diavik, and it was really excited to be able to take those learnings and apply them elsewhere in the world. And again, I think the big thing was recognizing that it hadn't all been found. There's always this sense in exploration, especially in the diamond industry. It's such a mature industry that we know where all the diamonds are. We certainly don't. I still think there's a bright future in diamond exploration. We haven't seen a lot of investment in the space. But I think with stronger diamond prices and a stronger overall diamond market, we'll start to see some of the exploration ramp up again. And I, for one, look forward to that time.
Well, fantastic. Thank you so much. Rami, did you want to go ahead and one more? Please go. Unmute.
Okay.
There we go.
Thanks, Eira. We had a really unique opportunity a couple of years ago, where De Beers invited us. They approached and they said they'd be happy to have a group of young diamantaires to come to South Africa and see a diamond mine, and that was really interesting. And subsequent to that, you were talking about engaging with the local communities. We actually developed a project there, which we're working hard on, for a Renaissance school that existed, and we saw that there was a need for a kitchen to feed the kids and ultimately a library. And so we're working on a fundraising thing, and we're really making strides. We've raised a chunk of money. But what I'd like to be bold and ask of you is post-COVID, whatever that means, in different parts of the world, I'd like to ask you, is it possible that maybe we can do something with your mining operation? And can we look in the future to bring a group of young diamantaires to see the Clara story, and whether it's in Antwerp or whether it's in Africa, or to actually get a better understanding? And in particular, the Young Diamantaire, one of our ethos is about creating opportunities for women. And if you look at our management team, in terms of our young organizing team, should I say, some of the leading positions are women in it, which is fantastic. And I just think it'd be fabulous if we could coordinate something into the future to bring a team to your operations, and you can give us grassroots and really hands-on approach, because there's so many other things that I'm sure other people are going to want to ask, and there is nothing like getting that feedback from someone like yourself, who is such a icon in our industry. And I really give you that credit, that you are an icon, because you have broken through the glass ceiling and you've achieved what others aspire to, and you're doing it, and you continue to do it so effectively. So it's a long question, but I'm going to put it to you. We'd like to do that with you.
Thank you, Rami. I really appreciate that. That's very kind. And absolutely come down and visit us. You have an open invitation. I'd be delighted to host a delegation of Young Diamantaires to come visit our mine or Clara, however it works. And I would love to introduce you to Nasim Lowry. She's the first ever female managing director of a diamond mine in Africa. And she's a force to be reckoned with, and she would be delighted to host you all down there at any time that is convenient. Okay. So let's stay in touch on that one, and we're going to hold you to it. Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Okay. Oh, very cool. We're looking forward to that next trip then. Especially Rami, since you're located in Australia, it might be your first trip. So let's hope for that. We're approaching then. Eira, I would like to say thank you so much. It was interesting and insightful, gave us a lot of new points of view. Thank you for taking the time. All the other Young Diamantaires here on the chat with us, thank you for participating today. And if you are interested in Young Diamantaires or interested about membership, just go on www.ydts.org or contact us directly. We're more than happy to help you out. Otherwise, Eira, I wish you a fantastic day yet, and of course, all the best on the future endeavors. We're very keen to find out how everything will work out in the next couple months and everything. And I hope to see you back again, maybe on another Young Diamantaires chat.
Would love to be able to do that. Thank you so much for having me today. It was really great to be participating with you all from around the world. And I look forward to seeing you all in Botswana. Thank you very much.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.